Let me tell you about the 3 best years of my professional life, and the single afternoon that almost erased all of them. My name is Daniel Marsh. I'm a software architect from Manchester, and for 37 months, I poured everything I had into building something genuinely revolutionary. Not a product feature, not a patch update, an entirely new data compression framework that our company, a mid-sized SaaS firm called Viridian Solutions, had been desperately trying to crack for over a decade. I didn't sleep properly for most of 2021. My partner, Claire, used to joke that she'd forgotten what I looked like without a laptop in front of my face. I documented every build, every failure, every breakthrough. Not because I was paranoid. I want to be clear about that. I did it because I'm methodical. I've always been methodical. Every email thread, every Slack export, every version note, all of it, automatically backed up to a private encrypted folder in the cloud. Just habit. Just tidiness. The patent application went in under my name and 2 co-inventors, my direct manager, Richard Holt, and the head of engineering, a man named Marcus Webb. That felt fair. They had contributed to early concept discussions. I had no ego about it. The work was what mattered. Then Viridian got acquired. American firm. Big money. The kind of acquisition that makes LinkedIn explode with congratulation posts from people who had nothing to do with it. There were town halls, rebranding decks, a new org chart that looked like someone had thrown a previous org chart into a blender. I wasn't worried. If anything, I felt secure. I had the framework. I was the framework. 3 weeks after the acquisition closed, Richard called me into a meeting room. No agenda. No calendar invite. Just a message on Teams that said, * come to room 4B. Now. *. Marcus was already there. The new chief technology officer, a man flown in from their Dallas headquarters named Greg Paulson, was sitting at the head of the table. He had the energy of someone who had already made a decision and was now performing the courtesy of explaining it to you. He told me my role was being restructured, that the new parent company had its own architectural team, that my position was redundant, effective in 30 days, with a standard severance package. I remember the particular quality of silence in that room, the way Richard was looking at the table, the way Marcus had his hands folded, very still, like he was trying not to move in case movement meant guilt. I asked one question. I asked about the patent. Greg said, and I will never forget this for as long as I live, he said. * The IP assets have been reviewed and attributed accordingly. * I went home. I pulled up the patent application database. Viridian's newly filed continuation. Patent, the one that would cover the commercial deployment of my framework under the acquiring company's umbrella, listed 2 inventors. Richard Holt. Marcus Webb. My name was gone. I sat in the kitchen for about 40 minutes. Claire asked me if I was all right. I told her I needed a few days to think. She knew better than to push. She made tea and left it next to me, and that, honestly, is one of the kindest things another human being has ever done for me. I wasn't angry yet. I was something colder than angry. I was calculating. Because here's what Richard and Marcus did not know. Here is the thing that Greg Paulson, freshly flown in from Dallas, could not possibly have been told. Every email, every design document, every version-controlled commit note with my name attached, every Slack message where Richard had explicitly written, in writing, in a searchable, time-stamped, encrypted archive, * Daniel, this is your baby. This is your architecture. We are just here to support. * 4,216 individual files. I didn't call a lawyer that night. I didn't post anything online. I didn't send a furious email. I opened my cloud folder, created a single master zip archive, and I smiled for the first time in 3 weeks. Then I slept better than I had in months. I want to be honest about something. I didn't plan this as revenge. I planned it as justice. There's a difference, and the difference matters to me. I spent the first week of my notice period doing exactly what they expected. Attending handover meetings, writing documentation, being professional. cooperative, invisible. Greg Paulson walked past me in the corridor twice and didn't make eye contact either time. Richard sent me a LinkedIn connection request. I let it sit pending. On day 8, I called an intellectual property solicitor based in Leeds. Her name was Priya Sandhu, and she came recommended by a friend who'd navigated a similar, though much smaller, dispute in the pharmaceutical sector. I sent her the archive that evening. She called me back in less than 2 hours. She used the phrase exceptionally well documented 4 times in that phone call. What followed over the next 6 weeks was quiet. Deliberately quiet. That's the part people don't expect when they imagine how these things unfold. They expect drama, confrontation, a scene in a boardroom. The reality is faxes, formal correspondence, legal letters printed on paper with a firm's crest at the top, sent by registered post to a company's legal department. The acquiring company's in-house legal team received Priya's initial letter on a Wednesday morning. By Thursday afternoon, she had received an acknowledgement. By the following Monday, she had a request to arrange a call. Richard found out before Marcus did, apparently. I know this because a mutual colleague, someone I trusted, someone who had nothing to do with any of it, messaged me to say that Richard had gone pale during what was supposed to be a routine product meeting and had left the room without explanation. Marcus had been called into a separate session with HR and the new CTO the same afternoon. The story that filtered back to me, piece by piece, over the following days, was this. Neither of them had been transparently malicious in the way you might imagine. It was more banal than that. Richard had assumed, in the chaos of the acquisition, that simply not correcting the new team's patent documentation was easier than reopening the process. Marcus had gone along with it. Greg Paulson had been presented with a clean filing and had signed off, without asking questions. Nobody had sat in a room and decided to steal from me. They had simply decided not to protect me, which, in my experience, is often how these things happen. Not villainy, just convenient cowardice. It didn't make me feel more charitable toward them, but it did make me feel very clear. The settlement was reached without going to court. I'm not able to discuss specific figures under the terms of the agreement, but I will say this. Priya described it as one of the cleaner resolutions she'd seen at this level, given the quality of the documentation. My name was restored to the patent. The continuation filing was amended. A financial settlement was transferred within the agreed window. Richard left the company 4 months later. His LinkedIn says he's exploring new opportunities. Marcus was moved to a non-technical advisory role, which, in corporate language, means a waiting room with a salary. I didn't celebrate in any dramatic way. Claire and I went for dinner at a place in the Northern Quarter. We'd been meaning to try for 2 years. We had the tasting menu. We split a bottle of something we probably couldn't have justified the year before. She raised her glass and said, to being methodical. I'm back in practice now, consulting independently. I chose not to return to employment at a company. The experience didn't make me bitter. It made me precise. I know exactly what my work is worth. I know exactly how to protect it. And somewhere in an encrypted folder in the cloud, neatly labeled and automatically backed up every 24 hours, is every document, message, and version note from my current projects. Just habit. Just tidiness.